My name is Rich Bacolor. I am a science consultant with Wayne Risa since 2016 or so. Um, the other part of my career was spent 20 years in the South Redford School District, teaching middle school. And I did manage to do every grade while I was doing that, mostly with eighth graders. And so, yeah, so I spent about 20 years teaching middle school science. Notebooking and journaling was my way while I was a classroom teacher, was really my way of doing disciplinary literacy. So like historically, again, um, my career started at the beginning of No Child Left Behind when, we're going to teach, or we're going to test reading and math every year. The rest of you are now reading teachers was the basic gist of that um, at the time. And so the work the work that this workshop or some of the impetus for getting kids outside and nature journaling is in some ways an antidote to just to be blunt. And the fact that like a lot of our kids don't get opportunities, regular opportunities to slow down, get outside, make observations, and let that inspire their writing. Okay, so there's a ton of research now about getting kids outside and both the academic benefits for that and actually the wellness or the whole child benefits of kids getting outside. And journaling just gives us a reason to do that, or sort of a more constrained way to do that. And so that's why I love it. In the chat, if you don't mind, um, why why nature journaling for you? You chose to be here again on a Friday afternoon. So throw in the chat why nature journaling matters to you or to your kids. See, avoiding screen time gets a +1. A break from the classroom, the screen. So break time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's funny, right? Like a break from learning, um, a calming from learning, and um, those are all absolutely true. And as a science teacher, it makes me wonder, right? Like, why is so much of what kids are doing in class causing stress? Why is so much of what kids are doing in class um, directly related to a screen, and things like that. So those are really good points and important questions. I also see Michelle's talking about having a relationship with the earth. Um, if you haven't already, please pick up Braiding Sweetgrass and reading Robin Wall Kimmerer. She's a botanist by training and an Anishinaabe woman. With ties to this region. And she talks directly about how we've forgotten these connections to the earth in a big way. Um, right. And, I'm, like I said, I'm 55 years old. I'm 1970, so I'm a child of Earth Day. Like that's how I grew up. But since No Child Left Behind, um, you know, there's certainly a lot less attention to those relationships between um, Earth and ecology and what is prioritized in school. Okay, so all of those super good reasons, um, and so all of that is hopefully. And then again, this workshop is really just an introduction to some of the resources that the teachers that I've been working with have found useful. And so I'm gonna share those with you. We may go try one here. I've got a whole schoolyard, right, to kind of play with, and that's where a lot of this nature journaling is gonna have to happen, at least initially. So slowing down and taking a look around your space, your immediate space, and looking for opportunities to engage students in sort of observations of the natural world and how to do that is really is really what we're talking about. It can be just that simple. And doing it on a regular basis then becomes a practice. And that's another thing that in science, we talk a lot about practices, right? Not practice, like Allen Iverson used to complain about. It's not practice, a thing that you have to go to do in order to do something else. It's a practice. It is what you engage in on a regular basis because it becomes part of you, right? So all of those things are super important. Let's dig into some of the resources. Um, and I think the first one I'll share with you guys is an article that just came out, like literally just came out today. Um, so I'll put that link. It's also linked in the document, but I'll put that in the chat as well. Ooh, that is a really long link. Sorry about that. Um, that opens. If that doesn't work, go to the resource document. It's linked in there as well. And in this way, let me share my screen so you guys can see briefly that article. Oops, sorry. All right, so this is the latest edition of the MSTA magazine. I happen to sit on the board, and here's an article that we wrote. A couple of my friends from the South Redford School District, Jessica Mall and Katie Stevenson. Katie is an instructional coach. Jessica teaches fifth grade, and we did some nature journaling. There's Katie uh, and Jessica on a birding trip, and um, so we first started working on this as a result of that teacher workshop through Cornell, and I am actually a birder. I'll admit that. So we did that workshop, and a big portion of that was nature journaling and some of the ideas around getting kids out to bird specifically, but it translates obviously into a whole bunch of other things. And so we started doing that ourselves, is just getting out and making observations. And then we kind of transitioned into, all right, how do we work that into some of our regular class work and make it okay, back to the why. Some of the responses that you guys put in there were like, it's calming, it's a break, and that's true. But I also want to think about it not just as a break. One of the things that the facilitator of that workshop made really clear is like this is really good as long as kids are taught and specifically taught explicitly that the reason why we're going outside is not to recess, right? If you want to give kids a brain break, give them a break. Like literally just let them go play. That's a different thing than going outside to make observations, to record data in your notebook as a scientist might, or just to sketch what you see and work on your observational skills. So those are two different things, and I'm going to just throw that out there as a sort of a caveat, right? Like if you're going to go outside and do some journaling as a break, that's one thing. Um, but you might want to rethink it in terms of like if we're going to have use this space and use this time to really get at some academic skills and academic as well as get the wellness benefits of being outside, then we have to think of it in more than just this is a break because the 3 hour reading block made you insane. Okay. Um, or you've been doing math manipulatives for an hour and now you need to do something else. As the science teacher, I have to just say like it can't just be the fun activity or the thing that we throw out. So having said that, what we did after we started our own like observational practices, then we started looking at, all right, how do we engage kids in this? And so one of the things we did was we made up a sort of a starter kit, right? If you go to nature centers, you see in a lot of places these little nature backpacks. And we picked up on that idea. There was another book called Moving Literacy Outdoors that had some suggestions about what to put in those. And so that's what we did. We got some grant funding. We bought some backpacks, put in some nature guides, and just a couple of simple materials, a seat pad, some journal books, colored pencils and pencil sharpeners, and then some magnifying glasses, right? We also did have a kit. We got a class set. If you want to be a little bit fancier about it, we got a class set of these. Comes from the Knox Provisions Company. And the cool thing about this is it is a dual purpose. You buy it as a set, and this is a monocular, right? Nice little monocular. Kids can go outside and do some bird watching. And this is a microscope attachment. Okay. We have found them to be durable, pretty easy to use, and really engage in that sort of observational, it just ups the observations a bit. I'll say that. And so we do have at Wayne Risa, we do have a set of these if you'd like to try them out. And we haven't quite figured out what the checkout policy is on those, but we do have a class set that you can check out, and you'll just have to contact me about that so we get a more official thing set up for that. So anyway, back to the kit. We put together these kits. Some of them could be even like upcycled things. And then because of the time of the year, one of the first activities that we did was based on John Muir's laws. There's a link to some of his resources. And one of his prompts is called zoom in and zoom out. Okay, this is the simple prompt. We made them into bookmarks. And basically it says pick an object and diagram that object from different scales. So find a tree, draw the tree. Go up close to the tree, observe the tree at a closer distance, and then draw those three things. So that zoom in, zoom out prompt was one of the things, but at the time of the year that it was, it was a little bit tougher to take kids out. So I happen to have some native plant seeds, and you can see in this picture right here. That's basically what we did we did a zoom in, zoom out. The weather was crappy outside, so we just put seeds out on the table and had the kids do some zoom in and zoom out on native plant seeds. And the questions and the variability in the different seeds that the kids were making was pretty wonderful. All right, so just a couple other student examples of plant parts. So you can see in this one, there's a diagram, a plant part diagram, super important. And I also want to make clear, Jessica's a fifth grade teacher, but she and Katie did a multi-age workshop thing where we had fifth grade working with kindergarten, and everybody was kind of out journaling together, just making some observations. So that was super fun as well. So that article, again, is in the MSTA website. There's a bunch more links for you to take a look at in there. But that's it. If this webinar is really just an encouragement of getting started and trying things out, that article can get you started pretty easily on that. So let me stop there for a second and check the chat.
Richard, that link that you provided doesn't work to that site that you were showing us.
It doesn't.
No, it says access denied.
Ooh. Okay. I'll fix that.
Okay.
I'll fix that. Is that true of the link that was in the resource chat or resource page too?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll have to fix that. Don't have time to do it right now, but I promise I will.
Okay.
I'll get you that article.
Yeah, it looks great. I would love to look at that.
Okay.
On my own too. Thanks.
All right. So, um, let me show you one more thing, and then I think I'm just gonna go do one of these journals and see. Um, so when I go out and do journaling on my own, I have this little like sling bag, really simple. Again, because like that's basically what we were able to do with the kids is give them a bag of with a journal and some pencils in it. I have my own little journal right here. This is just a blank sketchbook. That's all it is. Put some stickers on there because I like stickers. Um, and then I have a pencil case. And in that pencil case is literally, just a sharpener and a whole bunch of like colored pencils. That's pretty much the kit. So the bar for entry in engaging in nature journaling is like super, super low. That's pretty much it. The issue is, one of the issues is just time. Like you have to like make time to literally slow down, go outside yourself or take kids outside and like invest the time in just observing. And that can be really tough, especially like depending on what kind of personality you have or what kind of thing. But as we sort of alluded to in the beginning, it's really, really good for you. And it's really, really good for the kids. So when we took the kids outside, we weren't like doing a whole bunch of teaching. We were all sitting together. You can see in those pictures, with the kindergartners in particular, like we asked them to observe, find a plant that they thought was interesting and record their noticings and wonderings in words, pictures, and numbers. That's it. Like that was the prompt. Find a plant that you find interesting and in your journal use words, pictures, and numbers. And then they're kindergartners, right? So the word list that they have available to them is very, very small. But that became a learning opportunity in and of itself. And we literally sat on the ground and journaled with them, right? Um, in my okay, one another thing as I got into this myself, you know, I'm a science teacher, not an art teacher, right? And that it became a really interesting little like thing for me, because when I was drawing on the board, science, middle school science, you're always drawing diagrams on the board, and the kids will like, kind of cap on you for like this, that's a terrible drawing, Mr. Bacolor or whatever. And so that all that like kind of plays into it. But again, nature journaling is really just drawing what you see. And so for me, and I got this little starter activity from uh, another book, which is escaping me right now. But here's what somebody gave us. Somebody gave me an amaryllis for Christmas, and so literally I didn't even have to leave my house. I just started drawing the amaryllis. And so and I did that over the course of they go really fast, right? I think it took like maybe a week and a half for that thing to like grow a stalk and then start blooming. So that would be, especially if you want to get started with this um, in a really low bar way with kids, um, throw an amaryllis bulb in your classroom, whenever it's like late fall, is it winter? I can't even remember. Um, but something like that where it's growing really quickly and every day you can spend just 5 minutes drawing that thing. Um, that's what got me over the hump of like trying to make art versus just drawing what I saw, right? Because all I had to focus on was how many leaves are there, how big are they, and how big is the stalk getting? Because the basic shape doesn't change. You just keep drawing the same shapes bigger, right? Um, and I found that to be uh, really, really, really helpful as a practice. Um, and then as we kind of like progressed, we started taking kids outside. Right? So let me find one. actually, this was another teacher workshop. So here was a teacher workshop that we did. We did a learning walk, and we just stopped in various places. In this particular spot, it was along the Detroit River, and it was in early spring, and there were sorry if you can't see that super well, but early spring, and so there was a kestrel sitting out on a post, and the red-winged blackbirds were back in town, or the male red-winged blackbirds were starting to come back. And so it was, again, just sitting there. It was cold. It wasn't really that comfortable, but we just sat there and we just noticed who's in this space with us along the Detroit River. And that's what we ended up drawing, is just those couple things. Um, and that, that's kind of my journey into this. And now it's kind of like, okay, I find this particularly helpful. How do we get kids involved in that even more? And that's where some of these other tools, like the John Muir Law stuff, um, really comes into play. So let me bring up another tool, and let's see how are we doing on time. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. All right, so let me bring up. I'll bring up two things. And then I think we should just kind of try some stuff out. Oops. Okay, so this first one, I know this link has to work for you. Um, and it's upside down because this is one of those zines, which it was a new thing to me, but zines are little printable things that you like fold up and they turn into these tiny little books. And this one's adorable. This is from the Wild Wonder organization. Great organization. It's also linked to John Muir Laws, but tons of free little freebie things. And this is one of the free things you can download. Again, basics, right? Words, pictures, numbers. I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of. It's simple as that, as a prompt just to get started. And then the other fun thing that they did was they put together just a small group of prompts that, and with our kindergartners, obviously they didn't read the prompt themselves. The fifth graders did okay with reading these prompts. The kindergartners, we just told them, right? Okay, notice and wonder. Okay, we're going to zoom in. So I want you to back up and I want you to go closer. And that was pretty much the kind of prompting that they had to do. Obviously, kindergartners, the time that they're going to spend doing that is a little shorter, right, than other folks, but still think it was a valuable experience for them. So that's one. And what we did with this particular thing is we turned it into, oh, let's see, where did that go? Sorry. Um, we also turn this into a bookmark kind of situation, because the other thing that for the elementary folks, the other thing that we were working on is read alouds. And again, I know I said earlier, like it shouldn't always be about reading and stuff like that, but books are also fun to get outside and take kids to. Another good excuse is to take a book, make a little reading circle outside, bring the journals with you, and that gives us even a little bit more inspiration. So what we did, and by the way, there's so many like beautiful, wonderful, like nature related picture books to do that. So what we did was we turned them into quick start journal prompt bookmarks. And so here's another thing that you can use. What we did was we just printed these on cardstock, and then we cut them out and took that with us as a little bookmark with the read aloud piece. And that way we did a reading. Let's say next time you see a pill bug, great little science book from NSTA. Did a read aloud about that, and then the prompt was, okay, well, we're going to zoom in and zoom out. Where in the schoolyard are we going to find pill bugs and other little bugs? Where do we have stuff to turn over? And you know, that's where having some little places like this on the playground, right? Like, oh, there's a log next to the swinger thing. And those kinds of places exist, even if it's just a rock, even if it's just, you know, something else near the playground where you can engage in that. That gives us an excuse to so that's another tool. And since I keep talking about it, maybe I'll do a zoom in, zoom out thing. And I'd encourage you guys to do that too. Um, pick an object and let's just do one together. I'm gonna grab just a basic pencil here and my journal. And I'm gonna do one. So let's see. We'll find something that's not like too time consuming and terribly hard. All right, I'm gonna back up because I'll zoom out first. So the edge of this, um, ooh, that's gonna be staring right into the sun for you guys. Sorry. Well, here's what I'm looking at is this tree edge. Sorry. You can tell I didn't really plan this out exactly, but here's the zoom in. Maybe here's the zoom in. All right, so I'm looking at this tree right here.
Sorry, excuse me, you're
Yeah.
not showing what you're seeing. We still just see the
Oh,
website.
oh, oh, sorry, sorry, sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Thanks. I totally forgot about that. All right, now can you see what I'm seeing?
Yes.
Right behind me? Okay, so here I am. This is the edge of the parking, it's not actually a parking lot. There's the basketball court, right? There's the school building, and this is the little like pass-through area that leads to the neighborhood. And like in a lot of places, there's a tree line here. And edges, all right, science teacher comes out, edges really good habitat, right? So anytime you can see there's a change in, you know, you go from like tree to shrub or shrub to ground cover. Um, there's all those transitional areas are really good habitat for things, and or from ground cover to like under a rock. Always like interesting stuff in there. And so here's my zoom in. I'll just zoom in. So if I were doing this tree as my zoom in topic, the first thing I'm going to look at is zoom really closely into some of these leaves. And I can already see that there are, first of all, there's holes in leaves, right? And then there are little eggs, right? So that's what I'm going to journal for my zoom in part is just this leaf right here. Okay, so pick a thing, and with a scrap piece of paper or whatever you got next to you, right? I'm going to ask you to engage in that. Like, or listen, if you want to do the leaf, you can do the leaf too, right? But that's what I'm going to do real quick here. In my handy dandy journal. Feel free to, you guys, while I do this, feel free to ask questions or whatever pops into your head. What are we doing on time?
Hi, I think you mentioned this earlier, but I didn't quite catch it clearly. I'm sorry. So you said when some kids were kind of like, oh, worried about their art skills, you kind of redirected them to mostly focus on the details, like this tree is this, or like this leaf is like that, and that kind of helped them get over that hesitation. Or like
Yeah.
how did you?
Um, yeah, it's amazing how young kids are when like some of them have gotten messaging that like they're not artists or something.
Yeah.
And for sure like older kids. Um, and so yeah, that's one of the reasons why zoom in in particular using like a magnifying glass or a the little hand microscope that we have here. The zoom in part helps with that because I really can just be focused on like basic shapes of
Mm,
here, right? Or if I'm
mm,
looking particularly at these veins,
mm,
right? So if I just focus on this part of the leaf right here, I'm gonna say one, whoops, like this, even just this part, like one, two, three, right?
mm,
Oops,
mm.
where's my camera? Like one, two, three, and I can see that there's a middle line right here, and then one branch goes to that point right there, one branch goes to that point right there, and now I've got the basic shape. So if I just draw
Mm.
like one, two, three, and then I put these around it, I've drawn my thing.
So
And
kind of
then
like helping them find like the most significant like milestones to like focus on those things.
the most basic shapes. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. I really and again, I'm again really, really new to this in terms of like the journaling piece, but the advice that you kind of keep getting to avoid um like getting too bogged down in making a piece of art is
mm,
really focus on basic shapes.
mm,
Actually, and I didn't put a link into it yet, but or to it because I didn't think of it, but John Muir Laws has some like really basic like template things to help kind of like leaf templates, and then you just kind of like show the leaf at different angles and say, okay, well, this is it. Just draw this piece of the leaf. That's all we want to do. Um,
huh,
and then once you start getting more comfortable doing that, if you think about this is where patterns, science people talk about patterns all the time.
right.
In math, we have these like, these pattern ideas and what is it, Fibonacci sequence and the golden
Mm,
spiral that we can see in nature. But the cool part is when you actually see it. So if you look at this
mhm.
tree or this leaf right here, right? And then you start zooming out, what does this main piece start to look like?
Like a tree.
Like it's like a whole tree. So that's, I mean, and those are the like little magic ahas when kids are you encourage kids to like just draw the leaf, dude. All you have to do is draw this leaf.
Yeah.
Um, and then they start to see these patterns and when they zoom out, now drawing the whole tree is a little less intimidating because
Mhm.
now I did a little one and it's the same basic shape. So
Yeah.
those are the kinds of things. I'll show you one. I was doing like a little online YouTube course about drawing flowers, and again, that's the same idea. Is all right. I'm gonna start this. The outline of this flower is a circle, so I'm gonna draw a circle, and
The
then
basic shape. Mm,
then I've got degrees, right? Yeah. So I see, okay, there's how many petals on this? Okay, so now I'm just gonna start drawing that many divisions in my circle and over again. And you can also see like in some of these, um, I think one of the worst things you can do when you're journaling like this is um think that the first line that you put down is the line that you end with. I mean, you guys, there's a huge
mm,
metaphor in here in terms of writing. Um, the drawing of this, requires um, like multiple lines over and over themselves, and then you adjust. Another one when I started drawing like animals and stuff. Um, let's see if I can find one. Yeah, so when I started whoops, drawing animals and stuff, it really is just it's a couple of circles first to get the basic shape, and then you just keep filling in more details and erasing lines that don't make sense. So that's another way to get away, like doing some of these just like little mini studies. Just draw that. Now, I will say too, like birds are super hard because they move. Like plants are
Hmm.
easier. So for birds, I tend to if I'm gonna go, I tend to like use a picture. Like I'll take a picture and then kind of transfer that or think about like the scene that it was, and then I'll use this picture to kind of say, okay, well, this is where it was. Live animals are like way more advanced than I'm at. But if I see one in a space, it's much easier for me. Like my backyard, for example, if I or the schoolyard. I was working with some teachers in Livonia on this, and you can't make this kind of stuff up. We're doing a little nature walk around the school, and this was in the spring, and this button buck comes walking out of the woods on the side of the um on the side of the school. And we it was like that thing's going to be gone before we can get the details. So the idea was, all right, observe. Look, what? It's a deer. Great. Is it a male or female deer? It's a male deer because why? Because we see the antlers on it. And it was gone before, we could capture all of that. But now we have this like time and space where, all right, I'm going to draw the schoolyard as the setting because it came out from around that house and along the side of the wall. And of course, that one's a little more dramatic because, deer are sort of like, larger animals and stuff like that. But it could has easily been a cardinal. Um, right now the goldfinches are crazy everywhere. So it could be something simple like that, but that's when I would use words to say, because I can write words on my page much faster than I can draw. I would write a little description of what the scene was and then go back and sketch it if 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 that's what I was feeling like doing. So, um, yeah. So that was a really good question. Whoever asked that, thank you.
Thank you for your answer.
Yeah. Um, now that I'm kind of also flipping back through some of these, um, another nice thing about making this into a practice, or at least like keeping the student work over time, is because uh, a a phonology or like a record of what's happening across the year, right? So I can now look back at this journal and see, okay, I was with these teachers, um, at the Detroit River when the red-winged blackbirds came back. We were a little bit later in the year, in Livonia with the teachers when the deer came back. And I'll never forget, like when I was with the kindergarten kids, and we told them to pick a plant and make the observations of this plant. And I was sitting next to this little girl, and she did the plant thing, and she's like, "But I really want to draw myself as a princess." And I was like, "Well, put it right next to the plant that you just drew. That would be great." And she did. And what I didn't realize, because okay, also the teacher gave me like a little like sideways look, and I was like, well, that's funny. And then she's like, I want to draw myself as a princess. I go ahead. And she starts drawing this thing, and I'm doing my little plant drawing, and I look over once, and it's like, and she was like kind of like a savant. I mean, she was a genius. She had this like manga style, Japanese anime style version of herself on the paper before I even got my like dandelion drawing done. And so, you know, that there's also some stuff like that as a teacher. I had no idea, right? This is the first time I ever met the girl. But so that was pretty special too. And now I can think about like here's one my journal, and here's a story that goes along with that little memory as well. So it doesn't always have to be some, like actually we took a group of teachers out during the eclipse. That was awesome. We journaled the eclipse. But it doesn't have to always be something spectacular like that. It can be something, simple or personal or whatever. All right. So where was I? kind of sidetracked. So I didn't I haven't actually drawn this yet. Um, and I see we only have about 15 minutes left, 14 minutes left. So um, let me see. Maybe I should show you guys. Well, anybody have any other questions? I should check the chat again too. Any other questions? Um, does anybody have their own nature journaling experience that they would like to share that we can all learn from? The room is always smarter than the one person with the microphone. So yeah, well, again, if you think of something, just kind of shout it out. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and do this little quick sketch right here. Again, like I don't really have an art background, but one of the things the art teacher told me was for some of these like things that you're just doing, you're just trying to get a um like kind of an outline of um like don't look at your paper so much. And it actually kind of helps. All right, so that's it. Here's my basic, oops, here's my basic leaf shape. Again, nothing like crazy. Now I can start adding some words and numbers deal. So I see on here, um, three, three, it looks like three little galls. Um, and I know by the shape of this is an oak tree, right? And so um, these little egg cases or galls are wasps that um, end up being food, not like stingy wasps, just like nice wasps. Anyway, so that's what I would add is that there's three egg cases on here. Yeah. And then for the sake of time, I'm just going to drop that, but that's the starting point. I'm going to do a study. Another, uh, you know, uh, aspect of this would be like this is a really nice little sit spot. So giving a kid like signing a kid to a particular spot gives them some ownership. That's where we were thinking about those little seat pads. Just take your seat pad, go to your seat spot, or your sit spot, and draw your thing. And doing that multiple times also helps kids get this sense of like change over time. Obviously, like as we head into fall, those leaves are going to change color, and that's a really nice thing to pay attention to, um, like that. There's also some journaling games that are in some of these resources, where there's some sort of outdoor classroom management that goes with this, but ask kids to go find an interesting thing to journal and write draw it as well as you can, write as much stuff as you can about it, and then come back to the whole group and then trade journals. And it's like a hide and seek. Okay, based on what I've drawn, go find my spot, right? Or which spot was mine. They could leave their sit spots there. So, it's not just like rando. But that's another fun little game to gamify this and still get all the benefits of doing that. That lesson plan is in the links, so you can hear more about it. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna encourage you guys to check check those resources some more. Here is my email address. I am more than happy to come out and you know, work through a lesson with you or even co-teach a little lesson if you're interested in doing some of this stuff. because I really think it's something that's missing from the curriculum. It's one of those uh, nature journaling is not something that you're gonna see as a regular practice in a lot of our canned or more scripted curricular pieces. Even in the science curricula that we work with, or those resources that I like a lot, nature journaling is not something that's embedded across like a full year, and that's where I think stuff like this comes in handy. It lets us adapt some of what we do to get at some missed things, and what kids are getting opportunities to do in terms of their connections to nature, as well as like authentic writing, their own enjoyment and their own sort of like edification. So that's it. There's no other questions. Hope you have a great start of the school year. And yeah, let me know if you find anything useful in this, and you'd like a little bit more support. Shoot me an email. I appreciate you being here, and thanks.